For those of you who know me, The Last of Us is my favorite video game of all time. Like it shaped so much of how I play video games nowadays. I used to play multiplayer, things like that. The Last of Us came out, and I pretty much now I look for stories in a video game. And The Last of Us has one of the best stories of all time, just throughout a video game, between Ellie and Joel, even The Last of Us Part 2, which I think is an even better game than the first one. And now we get a television series. I was really nervous about it, but the fact that HBO got it made me feel a lot better. Me and one of my good friends, we talk about just the quality and the design behind HBO shows compared to shows on Amazon. Now, The Boys, another story. I think it's really good. I haven't watched Wheel of Time, Rings of Power, things like that, but things that I have noticed from that, it's like things from the costume, they all look too fresh. They don't look, they don't look like they've been weathered. Or like The Last of Us, everything post-time jump, obviously, spoilers is going to be in this. It looks really good. And I think they nailed every part of this first episode. I had chills the majority of the time. And literally all the range of emotions. So let's just jump right into it.
I'm gonna grab my plate real quick.
All right. Also, sorry if at the very beginning you heard like a noise in the background. That was the air fryer. My partner was cooking up some chicken nuggets. Yeah, we're very much a chicken nugget household. But let's jump right into the story. So the Last of Us TV show starts off a little bit different than how the video game does. We get kind of like a throwback to the 60s, and they're talking about viruses, pandemics, and things like that, which is pretty relatable. We all went through that. It's kind of chilling, honestly, watching that. So it starts off there, and they're talking about viruses, like, we beat viruses all the time. There's always going to be another virus. But this other doctor, they kind of make him try to seem like he's like crazy a little bit, talks about funguses and parasites and things like that. Funguses, mushrooms, thank you very much. I'm just kidding. But it was really eerie because everybody's taking it as a joke, and he's like, well, they burrow into the minds, they control the host as opposed to just making you sick. What happens if the world starts getting warmer? Global warming, it was kind of a cool little, like, made you think, like, you're sitting there watching TV, you're like, oh my goodness, is this, am I gonna get the cordyceps after me? Anyway, and he like mentions the cordyceps when he's like naming off all the things. It was interesting to see, and it's kind of just like a pre-coming of what's about to happen. Very similar to I Am Legend at the beginning when, I don't know if you remember at the beginning of I Am Legend when they developed the cure for like cancer. It's great, everything, and it's just like a news station. It's just this very eerie. It's like it's cured everybody. This is going to be the next big thing, and I really thought that was cool to see that with The Last of Us. I know it was his own thing, but it also felt like a nod. Also, it was pretty funny for those who've watched Silicon Valley. Big Head was the guy interviewing, so. That was cool. I really do think Pedro Pascal nails it as Joel. I think the voice, the mannerisms, just everything he had down to the T. I thought it was perfect. I've seen a lot of people complaining online about his beard and why he doesn't have the full like beard like Joel had. Like he's got facial hair. Like he looks really good in the role. They did really good with the costume designing. It looks weathered. Everything looks like Joel would wear this, even down to the very first episode. When we're going through everything, the death of Sarah, Sarah's wearing the same shirt, that the band tee that she's wearing in the video game, which is really cool. And Nico Parker literally nailed the role of Sarah. Like she just carried that whole first half of that episode. Like when she's going to school and you're seeing just kind of in the background, there's something going on in Jakarta, and they're like talking like, where's that at, this and that, and she explains where it is, and she's like smart, and Joel just looks so proud of her in those moments, and Tommy comes in, and Tommy's like, we got somebody here, and like she's smart, she's caring. She's going to school, like the neighbors, like when you go out, the neighbors, that was another good part. Let's talk about that for a second. So in the video games where it's a little bit different, the neighbors are the first kind of infected that you see, but in a different kind of way. So in the video game, Joel, he comes running in the house. Sarah wakes up, same thing as she does in the TV show. She wakes up and goes downstairs and is like, where's Joel? Joel's not there. But it's a little bit different in the show because the dog that you see, like in the video game, this dog gets killed and you hear it and you're like, what is that? Because you have no idea what's coming yet, right? Well, in the TV show, the dog shows up at the door scratching and it got out. It's the neighbor's dog. And we kind of get a little bit of background story with the neighbors because Sarah goes over there and helps bake cookies. It's like an older couple that lives there with, I assume like their daughter. and she goes over there to give them company, and that's just the sweet person that Sarah is. But when she's at the house, like there's an older lady there, and Sarah's going to a bookshelf, and she's like slowly pulling something off the bookshelf, and in the background it's kind of blurred, but you see the older lady just starts doing the twitches that the cordyceps causes. That's one of the big things with the cordyceps. It causes like twitching, it causes coughing, and we actually get to see like some of the early symptoms, which was a really cool thing. They show up on the wall after the time skip. Anyway, jumping around a little bit there, but when they go to school, before we've seen anything, before we've seen the old lady do her cordyceps kind of twitching thing there, they go to school. It's supposed to seem like a normal day, except there's cop cars, there's ambulances, there's fire trucks driving across the street, and Sarah thinks something's a little weird. She's in class, and something that was really cool, I didn't notice the first time I watched it, but the second time I went through and watched it, there's like a little shining object that keeps going on to Sarah, and it's kind of annoying her while she's writing, so she looks up, and the student very casually is just like, their wrist is doing like that. And at the beginning, I wasn't paying attention. Like, I just thought maybe they were just doing that. But that person was sick. And then it gives kind of like a preemptive, like a little cough. Like you hear somebody cough, which was also another symptom or a sign at the beginning of the cordyceps infecting someone. So it was a really cool little detail that going back through and watching it the second time was great. That's what I really loved about the show. It kind of built up that dread. So if you're a fan of the video game series, you know what's coming. If you haven't watched it, they still explain everything that you need to know. And maybe you don't know what's happening, but you know that there's something ominous at play there. As a very big fan, I played through the video game multiple times. And there's just certain things you can look and you see is coming. Like, with the joke with Sarah and Joel at the beginning, like, those things are coming, and it's just so satisfying when they nail them. Like, Joel's even wearing the same, like, gray t-shirt that he's wearing in the video game. So fast forward, Sarah, we get to see, instead of the first, the neighbor coming up to the house in the video game, Sarah goes over to the next door neighbor's house, checks on them, and sees that the older lady that was doing the twitching earlier is in fact infected by the cordyceps and is eating their daughter, and the husband is just, he's been infected as well. He's got the small twitches going too, but he's still him. It just hasn't affected him yet. So we see like the first look at the runner. I guess it would be the runner from, if you play the video game series, lifts their face up, and you can just see like the fungi coming out of their mouth and just takes off running. And something that was really cool about it is an older person. The older lady was like in a wheelchair, and I assume couldn't get up, wasn't very responsive earlier on. So the running was like still there because the cordyceps takes over the body, but there was like certain things, like the older lady like tripped when she was running, like the body just gave out, but was still very much in control by the cordyceps. And Joel shows up at the last second and kills the older lady, the neighbors, and Sarah is just like, what is happening? You just killed them. And Joel's like, yeah, I know. Well, also Tommy went to jail, and that's where Joel was. What reason he went home, he had to go get Tommy out of jail because Tommy beat up somebody who was in fact like infected at a bar because they started going crazy at a bar, and Tommy knocked him out, went to jail. Joel had to bail him out. Boom, there they go. We get to see the scene from the farmhouse burning, just paying tribute. The scene, and like it's word for word too, right? It's literally word for word, and it's incredible. We get to see the scene where Joel's telling Tommy to keep driving, but there's a car broken down and they have kids, and he's like, we have kids too. Like it just paid such tribute. And then not only that, we get to see the death of Sarah that we had to see, which was absolutely gut-wrenching. Like, I teared up in the video game. I cried, like tears. I was tearing up so hard in the show because they did a great job. Me and my friend Ethan were talking about this. They did a great job of letting the story be told by Sarah from her perspective. So people that weren't attached to her or had no idea about, how much, Sarah means to Joel, we got to see that. We got to see those relationships and dynamics played out. And when we got to see the scene where the government is the one, when they are like the orders to kill Sarah, it was heartbreaking. Well, to kill both Joel and Sarah, but Joel was able, to kind of dodge it, but it hit Sarah, and Tommy saves Joel, but too late because the bullet went through and hit Sarah, and it was just boom. I mean, shook. And then all of a sudden cuts to black. And I was sitting on the couch and I looked over at my partner Sam and I was like, 20 years later, boom, there it pops up. And a video game, and then we kind of get in this dystopian world up in Boston where Joel is part of it. So everyone's assigned different jobs. They did a good job at showing that about how just kind of crappy it is. Like tomorrow you're going to be doing this. Today you're putting dead bodies who are infected. A really sad scene. They showed a little kid wandering up to a Fedra, the base in Boston, and the little kid he was just trying to get there, and Fedra told the little kid, they scan him, and you could see like the scanner turn red, so we knew he was infected. The kid didn't know, but they said, we're going to give you a little shot, make you go to sleep, and then when you wake up, we're going to give you all the toys you could ever want. And it was just really hard to see that little kid and then it cuts to Joel taking the bodies out, and that kid was one of the ones that was killed, and it was just super sad. It was really, really well done how they just, did the cut, boom, and you felt like you were in the walls in Boston. So when we get our first look at Tess, who is played by Anna Torv, who does a great job at portraying just the badassery of Tess. Like, Tess just gives no Fs. Like, she's getting in trouble with Robert. So in the video game, when Tess and Joel go to find Robert, there's a big shootout, all this stuff and that's already happened once Joel and Tess get there. Robert's already dead, but that's when we're kind of introduced to Ellie on the other side, and Ellie's being held captive because she has been infected 3 weeks now. Nothing changed, when the most it takes anybody is 24 hours, and that's if you're bit in the leg, which Ellie had a bite on the arm, which was, I think it was within 4 hours you turn, but Ellie has shown no sign of changing, because obviously if you're a fan of the game, Ellie's immune, which is really, really cool. She's the only one. There's not others like her. But I think Bella Ramsey did a really great job portraying Ellie. Just kind of her wittiness, her humor, her intelligence when she shows up to Joel's place, and she essentially like decodes there's essentially like a radio that when it plays a certain year, it means, like, if there's a song that come out a certain year, it means certain things. So like 80s is the only one that didn't have a thing, but Joel falls asleep, and then Ellie goes, there was a song playing, and Joel, when you went to sleep, and Joel's like, what is it? And then she's like, well, it was a song, I forget, like, I forget what the song she said it was, but it was an 80s song, and figured it out because Joel he reacted, which meant there was trouble. So it was cool just showing how smart she was. But they show up, and essentially Marlene, who is played by the same person that's in the video game, sends Joel on the mission to take Ellie across, because Joel's wanting to find Tommy because Tommy's been gone, and they say the Fireflies kind of turned Tommy against Joel, which is something that you kind of learn those things in the game. They've been separated, but Joel wants to get a battery for a car to go across and find out what happened to Tommy and just check on him. But he's also tasked, if he is told if he gets Ellie to this base at the Capitol, then he will get whatever he wants to go find Tommy. So he is on that mission because no one else can do it. Joel's really good. Tess is really good. They're going to take Ellie across, and we get the scene in the pipes and everything when they're kind of escaping the I guess Boston when they leave at night. It was really cool because we got to see that, and that was a really cool dynamic. You have some really secretive kind of creeping and shootouts in the game. You don't really get that, but you do get Joel's first I don't know if it was a kill, but he beat this dude really bad because he got flashbacks of when he stood in front of the guy that was going to shoot Ellie. And we also find out they scan Ellie, find out she's infected. That's when Joel finds out, but he still continues to do the job, which is what he's going to do because he's trying to do whatever he can to find Tommy. But little does he know, he's going to find this real connection with Ellie, which is exciting to see. They leave out, and boom, you see the big, if you're a fan of the games, the big two buildings that fell together. Really cool to see. They were collapsed, and we get that shot. And if you're a fan of the video games, you know what's about to happen. We're about to see a clicker next episode, and I could not be more excited. It's going to be some creepy stuff about to happen. The world setup, the world building, everything is great here. I cannot wait for episode 2. We're going to be talking more about that then. Hope you're a fan of The Last of Us. And maybe you can watch it with me. Comment what did you love about The Last of Us? What maybe did you not like? What would you like to see different? Are there scenes that you're excited for that you're a fan of the video games? That's it for right now. I will see you next week for episode 2. We're going to talk about it, have some fun. But in the meantime, keep staying amazing, stay awesome. You're worthy, you're amazing, beautiful, awesome people, plus ultra people. Keep being you, and I'll see you next week.